It's 7:02 and I'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion? Second. Adds. I have two, maybe more. Yes, just two. The first is under 7B, the follow-up action list, which, do we have it in hard copy?
I happened to print it in my notes.
Okay. I didn't. Good. So does that come as part of the business arising from the minutes, or does that come as the following under unfinished business? I guess is what I read.
It's not technically part of the agenda at the moment, but you're adding it, so
Oh, yeah.
you might as well call it unfinished business since it's a follow-up action list.
Yeah, okay, so that would be 7B. And under 8A, staff reports, I'd like to just hear verbally, if nothing else, the website delivery timeline. Would you be able to talk
we're
to that?
looking at...
Not now,
oh, sorry.
unless you want to.
Sorry, no, I'm just, yeah, no.
Okay, think about
Sorry,
it.
yeah.
So can we add those two?
Sorry, under what was the item?
8A4, website delivery timeline, verbal. That's all I had. Anybody else? Okay, so, yeah, oh, sorry, Peter.
So we have on table is the draft zoning bylaw recommendations from today's council strategy committee meeting.
So that'll be under committees.
So that'll be under committees, so 8D2.
Okay, so council strategy committee recommendations. What's he going on about? Yeah, it says so. Okay, so with those three amendments, I will call the question. All in favour? Opposed? It carries. Seeing no public participants, there are no delegations. We'll move to approval of minutes of the previous meeting, that being the February 21st meeting. I had only one question, Peter, and that was under 11, correspondence. Do those items get moved to the follow-up action list? Or do they get taken care of in the agenda?
I don't know if they got knocked off yet or not. We haven't had a chance to follow up on that.
I guess, no, it's more a philosophical question. Should these not also go into the fuel?
Yes, they should.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So they're not there. Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah, I added councils, the ones that pertain to council onto your list.
Fine. Okay, thanks. Good. Got it. Well done. Well, staff needs to too, because we need to ask staff if they did it. It's
We
not
have,
just the
we
council.
have a separate fuel that we worked on that contains tons of different things.
Oh, so it's not business arising from this.
It's not necessarily just that.
Okay, so I asked the question again. How do we know that stuff coming out of the minutes gets actioned? Other than reading through every line and saying, hey, did you do that?
In that you ask this question
Every time. I was told that the fuel would do
And
it.
so we've got the new French form, which has got bigger picture stuff. I mean, the correspondence is important but small-ish.
But it's
I mean,
business
I could do-
arising.
I could do Peter's negative pledge that it's. I presume it's all done unless he tells me otherwise.
You've got a lot of faith. I'm not saying there's any skullduggery involved here, but it's things slip between the cracks.
Yeah, so
I don't need an answer now.
but
We used to have a method that worked fine.
Let's discuss this again
Yeah.
at our next meeting.
So the fuel is not going to work because
Well,
I take you've got stuff that you have
well,
that you
it-
don't want. That's not
yeah, it's-
business arising.
We don't want to say, we're not sticking staff's entire fuel
It's got nothing to do with the
on the
minutes.
agenda.
No.
Although there are items in it that pertain to, just as there's items in it that pertain to what's on the, this is more or less a council fuel, is what this is. So.
Okay, well that's also not that because there used to be action items here in the minutes, and then they were summarized in a table. Now we don't even have action items. So where are the action items? We don't have any.
Okay, well, let's
Is that how we
revisit
did it? We had a summary table of
Yeah,
the action
the
items.
problem with the action items previously was there was no resolution behind them, so they weren't,
Kosher.
They weren't kosher the way they were. So
Yeah. Okay.
we need to figure out a way that works.
Okay.
Wouldn't they show up under old business? If they're not, if
We'd
they're
have
not
to bring
action?
them up there. Somebody would have to say, "Hey, old business." By having flagged it
Business
themselves.
arising, I mean, it's easy enough to look at stuff that's in the minutes that you're looking at, but it doesn't cover off previous items that are still outstanding. So let me revisit that and come up with something that's going to work.
Maybe we just resolve every action item. No, you look like you're about to suggest something.
No.
No? You're thinking about something else?
Yeah.
No, fine. Okay.
I just want to add, like, generally speaking, with minutes, you deal with everything in the minutes that's been dealt with in the meeting, like correspondence, all this stuff's been dealt with. We know that, right? And so when I read this, I'm not looking for action items because we know what we did in the last meeting. We're gonna see things on here when we review stuff, and so action items would then be carried forward into the minutes of this meeting if we have ones left over, and they would show up under old business normally, not anywhere else.
Well, there's no category called old business.
No, but or
Business arising.
Business arising. Okay, and so
But right now,
So
somebody
if
has to
it doesn't-
flag it by reading through the minutes and saying, I want to see something.
You know, Peter's time is valuable. For me
So-
to just rip out page 9,
yeah,
ask him to verbally address it next meeting.
yeah.
Page 9.
Well, it's one with the correspondence on it, which is the most of the stuff.
Yeah, page 9's got the correspondence on it.
Highest paid guy doing reports, I'm not into this.
Don't need a report.
Well, I'd do the negative pledge too if he said it was all
Well,
done.
I
That's good,
don't
but-
know if it's been done, so I
Well,
haven't
so-
There you go.
I haven't had a chance
So
to.
therefore, I'm quite prepared to just rip it out, stick it in my binder, and know that I'm gonna ask you, are all these done next time? And that's the end of that.
What, you're going to go back 2 sets of minutes now?
Well, that's
Council is a continuum, it's timeless,
You have last meeting minutes?
right there.
No, the previous meeting.
No, but I'm.
check if that
I'm
was
going-
done.
Okay,
Okay, well, we're just going around in here.
They're an email.
I'm drawing a line in the sand here.
It's not satisfactory. We have no way of checking that action items have been done. And I mean, Peter and I, we're on the same page there. So we'll come up with a way.
Okay.
And one way to do it might just be to resolve action items quickly. Because you're right.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it with you.
Well, we're going to start right now. So any action items from now on will be resolved. Then we'll be there. Okay, so there's no business arising. We haven't approved the minutes yet. That's a motion. Thanks. And a second. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. No business arising. Unfinished business. IRRs. This is not a good form either, because there's no resolution recommended there. But let's go to the IRRs.
Well, it depends on how you deal with them.
Yeah, but not in the agenda. In the minutes, you could say that, but in the agenda, it should be something like consider the IRR. The agenda can't
The
presuppose.
agenda is recommending that we update the IRRs in accordance with, and then whatever you end up doing with the IRRs.
Okay, fine. Hi, evening. Are you looking to address council? Because we've already missed that part of we're past that part of the agenda.
Are you Guillermo?
No.
He's
Oh, sorry.
gallery.
You're just coming to look, or do you want to say something?
No, I would like to listen.
Oh, that's more than welcome. Otherwise, we'd quickly go back on the agenda. But if you don't have anything to say just yet, go ahead. So IRRs. There's one. Remind us now. You told us
We
about this in
have
IC.
a-
It happened.
We have a $10,000 estimate to install 2 pulley systems to the intakes, one at Mag, one at Harvey. In essence, it means we have a camera that we would hook up to the pulley. It would go up, it would go out on a pre-programmed shoot, continuously recording. It would drop via a cable, do a spin, go up and come back. We would review it and see if we got what we were looking for. It doesn't provide us with the ability to stop if there's a problem, to look etc.
But there was a camera that did provide that option as an upgrade.
We are still waiting for that cost to come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think as far as the drone is concerned itself, we can say that's done. The drone is not feasible for all kinds of reasons, legislative and technical.
Yeah.
But the same resident whose business this is has come up with sort of a cable-based thing that we heard about in the IC, Ron, for your information, that was remarkably cost-effective, if in fact we were getting what we thought, that may in fact be a consideration. Sort of a ski lift type of thing, or laundry line type of thing, that gives us the ability to not go up there but still see what's happening in the event of emergencies. And if it's indeed somewhere around $10,000, I think we have to seriously consider it.
Yeah, so the water budget is set. We have our funds in there, and depending upon what that estimate comes back in. So staff would like the ability to stop the camera halfway up, to look at the bluffs, to
Zoom.
stop the camera as it's at the intake, you know, and zoom in on potential problems.
Yeah.
So depending on what that cost is, you know, we may be able to work it within our budget. We may decide to wait and re-budget if we don't have enough funds. So if that's okay, then we can strike it off the list.
Okay, fine. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm good with this one to be taken off.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be the recommendation of council, to remove the only remaining open IRR number 114. I don't propose to go through the resolved ones right now. Those are part of your fuel, I presume, and stuff that you're doing, all resolved, ready to go. So can we have a motion? That was the motion. Can I have a second in that regard? Thanks. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. And we'll now move on to reports. First being staff report on the quarterly preliminary financials. Pam.
Yes, so this is the fourth quarter review. It is preliminary. Right now, I think we have probably 99% of the 2016 invoices in here. What isn't in here are any year-end adjustments we have to do when we start doing the financial statements. So one of those adjustments may be, one of our steps is to look in depth at everything that got charged to capital. And some of it may be considered operating, so it would go into operating and then, you know, hence lower the surplus. Although we've done a lot of that preliminary work, but they're, like I say, so just basically this is a preliminary result. But based on this, we're looking at a surplus comparable to last year of about 184,000 after the rebudgets. And it's that high really for the same reasons as last year, 3 reasons, which we've addressed in the 2017 budget. Is the contract services for water, the contract services for public works. Historically, we've just had a large budget in there with the plan that I guess we would do studies and have the material available for engineering. But we've, I took a close look at it this year and realized just historically we hadn't been spending it. So we just budgeted specific things. And then the maintenance as well, the public works maintenance has been favorable for several years. So again, we've lowered that budget. Although in the 2017 budget, it looks like it's higher, but it's because we put the CN maintenance in there, our share of the CN maintenance for the grants that we're applying for. So that's why the cost is in there and then it's offset by a grant. So it's a little hard to compare. And there's a variety of reasons for the public works maintenance being higher. And this year in particular, we lost 5 months due to WCB claims. Neil was off 4 months, and Garth was off 1 month. And just even having the new public works manager start when he did, he had to sort of kind of, I guess, learn the job and find out what he wanted to do. And then there was a large amount in there for rock slope remediation. No, it was for, the
Tank.
cleaning of the tank,
Yeah.
yes. And because
Unbudgeted?
No, actually the opposite. It was budgeted for 32,000 and we didn't spend it because we realized by going for the clean water grant, there was no point spending that money until we saw. So there were reasons for it, just like there's been reasons every year, but I feel as I discussed when we did the 2017 budget, we really went through line by line and we really cut a lot of the budgets that were historically over budget. So
Sorry, you had said that you were over, but in fact you were giving reasons for why you were under the budget, and that's what...
sorry, I'm talking about the surplus that we over budgeted. Sorry, I misspoke, yes. There were essentially, there were a lot of puts and takes. We went over in council because of the election, but that was offset by some favorable savings
Well, we see that
in
here,
fire.
yeah.
But the 3 large things were the same 3 large things every year, which I think we've really addressed this year.
And you gave us a heads up on that one during the budget process
Yes.
as well,
Yes.
indicating that you would now budget a little more bottom up
Yes.
in future.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think,
So, I mean, it's good news in the sense we have this surplus, it'll flow to reserves. And we haven't budgeted this in 2017 for any transfers to reserves, so, it's good news, we'll have that money. It's looking like there'll be a lot of projects in 2018 that we'd like to consider, the beach being one of them, the beach park. So we'll have that money in reserves that we can use, and it is a tighter budget in 2017, so sometimes it's nice to have something for something unexpected.
what was the source of that? So the surplus is 184,000. How much of that was grants and how much of that was taxation? Obviously, you have to allocate the total revenue.
It's essentially,
Let me answer for you.
Yeah, sure.
It's largely taxation, which Public Works is under over $60,000, so we overtax 60 grand. And the water fund, which is the substantial part of that, of which the biggest part was professional fees and contract services, that we budgeted 131, it came in at 32, so there's your difference right
Yeah.
there.
What was our budgeted draw on reserves though for this previous budget year?
the budget draw was 78,000
78.
for 2016.
So I would say the delta between 184 and 78, in round numbers, $112,000 was tax. We taxed 12% too much.
Yes.
Which is a big number.
It's an unpleasantly big number. That's not great. Okay, some of it was stuff that we couldn't predict.
Yeah.
In fact, all of it was stuff we couldn't predict, I think.
And it's
Sorry,
things we
jump
fixed.
in, Pam.
Yep.
It was right there.
Oh, no, sorry. No, that's fine. It's essentially those three things, that the others were sort of what I call puts and takes. Fire was a little favorable because they didn't have the full complement of staff. Offset, that nicely covered the election. We had favorable savings for the IMP, which is part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
any small perturbation is going to be noticed in our budget because
Yeah.
it's such a small budget. So, yeah.
One thing is historically, not to justify, but historically we have been favorable, and that is the only thing that's flowing to reserves right now. So in one way, I mean, it's flowing to reserves that we can use for projects, and probably will use this year and next year.
Yeah, that's tax money that is doesn't actually need to be earmarked for anything. The projects for which it was raised have been accomplished.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
what
I suppose
we-
that's good.
It is good. I think so, because in those previous budgets, we weren't budgeting transfers to reserves, so we're trying.
Yeah, but that was purposeful because we thought.
No, I agree,
yeah,
but it's.
So I don't want to do it through the
yeah.
back door.
No, but it's money that is going to reserves, which, I think it'll definitely get used.
Okay, well, that's the summary. Anybody like to touch on any
So-
line items
Yeah,
in
and
the,
that was
in the
my next thing, if
financials?
there's any specific things. I showed you all the detail, so it's optional, just for transparency, but if you
I think some
had
people
any
will go through that. I did.
questions.
I had only one question just to kick things off. The other grants number, just remind us why the actual was 236 and the budget was 422. I think I already know the answer, but
The revenue page, page 21?
yeah, no, it's page 17 in the consolidated.
Oh, okay. What I'll do is I'll take you to page 21, and then you can see a further breakdown of that number. The big one was the New Build Canada, which we have rebudgeted, and the other one was the EMBC, the Disaster Finance Assistance. At the time, we thought it would cost about 143. It came in at 99, and then we budgeted the exact amount of expenses, and they came in favorable, so it was a wash. At that time, it just happened, and that was our quote of 143,000, but it came in favorable at 99.
Yeah, so I mean, the budget number was actually just completely spurious in that regard. Should we not then adjust the
Well,
budget number to show
it
that we actually
wasn't-
came in
It
spot on?
wasn't spurious, it was a quote we got from it was quick. We have to provide PEP with practically the same day a quote. Someone came in, gave us a quote. It was an in and out, there was no impact on taxation. There was 143 of revenue and 143 of cost, net zero.
The difference in that is the quantity of material they estimated. for-
Oh, I'm sure there's good reason for it.
Yeah.
It looks like a miss on budget.
That one I would argue not, only
And
because.
only when it's explained.
But it's an in and an out, so I would agree if we had taxed too much, based on that would have been problematic. And if we had just taxed the revenue, I would have done a rebudget or a budget
You would have.
amendment. I would have.
Okay,
But for
fine,
this,
okay.
technically, some places don't even budget it, because it's an in and an out, but I feel that you do need to show the revenue, and you
We
do
had
need to
this
show the
discussion
cost,
2 years ago, yeah, and I agree. I think we should show that to show what it takes to run the place.
So,
Okay.
so that was, it's really the Build Canada, which
I thought that was going to be
this
the
will be the
answer.
last year I have to budget it.
And the differential in protective services, we spent 288 instead of 325 budgeted. I'm looking at the consolidated numbers again.
Yeah, consolidated, so again, I will go to, it's, fire.
That's fire just was
Department.
less than we thought.
And that was, a lot of it was staffing and related expenses because they were about 10, less than their complement all year. So of course that was directly related to
Okay, and what do we know about?
this.
Okay. Anything else?
You going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We were on page 22, under general fund administration. I'm looking at salaries and benefits, and from 2015, from 408, up to the actual of 2016 was 464. My figures are that's about a 13.75% increase. Without going into names and details too much, generally, what was the push for that?
The biggest one was we had the retroactive salary adjustment that went through for the staff members. The job had to be reevaluated, so yeah, that went through.
Thanks.
And then, yes.
Yeah, yeah, we knew that was coming. So, yeah. On the next page, we have 1165 for both the communications consultant and the by-election. 11665. Is that because you just divided a number by 2, or a remarkable coincidence, or what? This is in the notes.
Oh, yes, no, it's 11655, and yeah, it was just a coincidence. I actually double-checked that myself. I thought but the communication consultant was that much, and yes,
And the elections consultant was also that much. They should swap jobs.
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Pam. Anybody else? So I don't think we have a motion to receive the fourth quarter preliminary financial review, so please take that as one. Can I have a second? Thanks. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. So we received that report. Now we have the supplemental budget requests, starting on page 35.
Yes. So my recommendation here is actually that council approve the 2017 supplemental budget requests as attached. I thought we could review them. I put through the changes that we discussed at the last meeting, and I have a couple of options: approve them as they are, review them, make some amendments, and then approve, or just send it back to us and I can bring it back to the next meeting. And there would be a portion of this discussed at the closed meeting as well.
So there's nothing here that we haven't already opined on at some length in Council Strategy Committee
Yes.
meetings.
I wanted, just because I had got a few emails about a few optional things like snow blowers, I felt this was our opportunity to discuss some things. There's been, we've got some feedback now on this Kelvin Grove stairs, and I thought, we're still sort of ahead of where we were last year, so I thought this would be an opportunity to kind of see it. We talked about a lot of changes last time, so now you can actually see what it looks like. I've compared it to my estimation of the 2017 budget surplus of $295,000 versus requests of $289,000. So we have a balance of $5,000, but I would actually like to now take that $5,000 and suggest it go to our snow removal budget, because every week that budget I need to increase it. So I would suggest that instead of using that for additional supplementals, I'm actually going to adjust the budget and add it to the snow removal budget, just because of this unexpected snowfall. So essentially, the surplus that I am forecasting for the 2017 budget will cover all the supplementals that we have here. After we
With a
make the
5%
changes.
tax increase.
With a 5%, exactly, with a 5% tax increase.
Perhaps I could put a hole in that.
But that's what this purpose of this meeting was. And just like I say, from the emails
And,
I've been getting, I felt
although
there's
I
a few
looked
things
for
we
it,
need to discuss.
I couldn't find it. Well, we can have the proper recognition for the public. We did do a roadside conversation about an engineering, which I'm sure the infrastructure committee will talk about this too. Maybe they vetoed the idea, but I think we were talking about putting together a notional 50,000, that number I'm not stuck on, for a study for water pipelines.
We did
Yeah.
discuss that. Fred, you want to talk on that one?
Is it in here, Pam?
No, the reason I didn't put it in, I felt it was more appropriate, and that's another reason I brought them again to talk, is to
Yep.
have council recommend.
Well, we can put that
go
one to bed pretty quickly. So,
Yeah, I can talk about it
Yeah,
in
go.
reports later.
well, I'll talk about it now because
Oh,
it's
it's
it's a budget item.
Well, there's no cash involved in what our.
Yeah, we don't. We just, infrastructure committee talked it over at some length, bearing in mind that you were prepared to spring for 50 grand for a feasibility study. We realised pretty quickly that we have to go back to Metro and ask them to do it internally, because the work would be done by them anyway.
It's a desktop one that the term was.
Maybe I misread your communication to us.
I didn't say when we were going back to Metro, seeing as we're not going to run out of water in the next, strategically
Okay,
for a
I'm gonna
while.
give you a little bit. Okay, so you have a plan.
Yeah, no, there is a plan.
I think. we need
No,
to-
you
Yeah,
spoke
so-
most eloquently about it.
I think we need to tap into our resources
Yeah.
and see exactly who to direct this to, so that we can get some buy-in from lower down echelon before it gets to the senior echelon of
To the board, yeah.
Metro. Absolutely, and
Yeah,
you're
I'm-
right. They have all the information that would a consultant would require. So.
Yeah, and even if they had not, we would not need that level of quotation for strategic purposes.
I'm happy to let this go and move on. If
Yeah.
Peter could put it on an IRR for us, so we don't lose track of it.
Okay, yeah. Just let's call it the pipeline feasibility study project.
And please put that under my name.
Yay!
Thank you. And Pam.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No.
About the snowblower and the, we talked about potentially having a device that would turn over the sand at the beach parks in the play structures. Those were priced out. First of all, staff felt we didn't need a snowblower because there's nowhere to actually run it. Although I did, how would you move it? You'd put it in the back of a truck. That's how you'd move it. But
Yeah, it would take two people to put in the back of the truck, two people to unload.
by the way, that reminds me, when we're talking about the design of any upgrades to public works, we need a gantry crane for moving snowblowers and other like devices. Just a small gantry crane in the storage shed.
So to load them into the truck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything, salt bins, plow blades, to move them up into a rack, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gantry crane.
Could be looked at.
Yeah, but that's. I'm not suggesting that.
The
for
same
budget.
goes for unloading of the truck. I have one for my truck that I can use that
Yeah.
mounts on the trailer hitch in the back, just swings in, picks it up, brings it down.
Yeah, but that's more like a cherry picker. I'm talking about one that goes.
No, I understand what you're talking about. I'm just saying that for unloading,
Snowblowers.
I'm saying for unloading the truck to deal with that issue,
Don't lose
it's a
track.
matter of just
No.
putting. having
So
a truck
snowblower
put
not
that crane.
needed, that's right because other than the sidewalk and stuff. But if you want to shovel, that's fine.
Yeah,
And-
there's only a few sidewalks that we would consider using it on.
Yeah.
We do have a snow blower attachment for the John Deere tractor, but haven't needed to use it.
Yeah,
Well, snowblower is not effective once people have walked on the surface, so
yeah,
it's.
yeah. It gets walked on pretty quick. Yeah, you're right. And the tiller.
The tiller was surprisingly expensive. It was about $15,000 for a walk behind tiller.
This is not a cultivator that goes. This is
No.
a thing that actually sieves the sand.
Absolutely, yeah. It sieves the sand, it pulls out feces, needles, bottle
Glass.
caps, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That is surprisingly expensive. Well, I mean, that may be the use for future parks funds or something like that. But I think that's a bit rich for our blood at this stage, right?
given the square footage that we have, it's much easier for us to rake, and it will be on a program of regular maintenance, raking, and
Do we have a cultivator?
no idea. I'd have to ask that.
Okay. Okay, so that was that, Ron. Those two.
I will leave it with you to find somewhere to philosophically talk about the 5% tax increase, and that we found $185,000 that we didn't think we were going to have this time last year. And 5% equals 12,000 times 5 equals 60 grand.
We could
I'll
decide
leave-
to
I'll-
repurpose the surplus and
leave-
not have a tax increase.
It's not what Pam wanted to hear, but I think it's a discussion of merit here. I mean, I'm pretty much fine with the rest of the budget myself.
The line items, yeah. But so the question is, we have a windfall surplus.
The residents skate for a year. Maybe I should phrase that again. I mean, we're giving the residents their money that we overtaxed them for last year,
Exactly. Yeah.
which to me, my money would go on that. For 60,
And that's correct. We did overtax for that, right?
as
yeah.
we did the year before.
Well, but that was needed expenditure.
If I'm a
This
resident,
was
as we did the year before.
this was not through any circumstance of mismanagement. This was just
Or
things
due
came in
diligence,
cheaper than
this
we
is what it
planned.
was.
Yeah. So, what do we think about this idea? I don't want to set a precedent of no tax increase, but on the other hand, we overtaxed last year.
By 12 points.
Or do we want to spend the 186 on a tiller? Or something like a tiller?
Put it towards 2018 projects, which we're getting a pretty big list at Lions Bay Beach Park would be one.
Yeah, well, I mean, other projects underway will ensure a fairly large reserve coming to Lions Bay soon. So I'm not too concerned about, I don't want to call 186 grand nickel and dime, but it's a small number compared to the sort of stuff that we'll start seeing from land use and so on.
I'm sort of the mind looking at all the issues that are going to have to be dealt with from the infrastructure master plan that are coming down the pipe at us, that I'd be rather hesitant to return too much money just to pull it back from them in greater amounts down in the future. If we went up incrementally, I think that would be a lot more palatable than a whopping big tax increase when we have to start funding some
To
of
do
these
the
things.
Bayview Road flume, for example, which is a $440,000 project.
Mhm.
Preliminary estimates have come in at 855.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know if you know this, I hate surprises,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Historically, I went back and looked at 2014, there was a 4% increase in tax, but a 10% increase in the parcel tax. That was before I worked here. 2015 was an 8%, and 2016 was a 12%. So the 5%,
5 is the best part of
although high,
inflation.
is still relatively, compared to the last 2 years.
And I think Fred's right. I think we actually do need seed money. Yeah, so back to the Bayview flume just cannot be done without grant funding.
So, depending on the urgency, we have had a failure of a culvert just this past winter. Sorry, winter hasn't passed yet.
Mm.
So, the replacement of the storm sewer, the flume, and the culverts is, I believe, $350.
Mhm.
So,
And
we
what's the
made-
rest? The
The
road,
rest is the road rehabilitation.
cambering, Drainage.
Absolute reconstruct, yeah.
the
So-
300 and something doesn't include drainage, as in runoff.
For the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, the drainage system includes catch basin leads. So you basically stub out a pipe. But the
But
catch
nothing would
basins-
go in it in some cases.
Catch basins would go as part of the road.
The big project.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I think, yeah, I'm with Fred. What do you say, Jim?
I'm with Fred.
Ron?
I'm fine.
Okay, fine. So I think that's, we go with the current
Yeah.
plan, exactly as is. No ads, no late ads.
Do you want to talk about the Kelvin Grove stairs?
Yeah, so
Oh,
we
except for
have,
the yeah, sorry.
we've received approximately 18 emails in response to your or your mayor's message. And out of those, 12 commented on the stairs, and it was a dead even 50-50 split. 6 yes, 6 no. Of the 6 yes, 2 recommended that we use rock stack to reconstruct the stairs. I don't know that that's a good idea. I've had similar experiences at White Cliff Park, and our insurers do not like rock steps. So,
Yeah, that starts slumping almost immediately. And the ones who said no why?
said no because they didn't see a lot of people using them, or yeah, basically.
Well,
Pay
mine very
money
limited.
and I think some of them said don't want to pay the money and then have to do it again in just a few years' time.
Yeah.
They're just going to disintegrate.
To redo the wood stairs. Well, I mean, the current ones have lasted 30 years, but it's not going to be a few years, but if we do it right. But my understanding was that is actually the only means of access to the beach.
At high tide, yes.
Oh, at high tide, okay.
Yeah, so you know, not knowing the beach and not knowing Kelvin Grove, I don't know exactly how much real estate is available at high tide.
Not much.
No.
Yeah, it's just a few logs. But people go and run their dog up and down.
But there's
Okay.
no, I don't think there's anywhere to run the dog if it's high tide. If it's low tide, then there's room to run.
No, they dodge in and out of the trees and they run along the logs and stuff. I mean, it's not ideal, obviously.
Good dogs run in the water.
Yeah, there's nothing to say that we have to rebuild the stairs in the exact same location. There may be another, you know, ideal spot for it.
So your recommendation is to demolish the stairs and not replace them this year?
In light of the feedback, I don't think I would be doing a service to Parks and Rec if I recommended not replacing them. It is gaining popularity.
To replace them?
It is a dive area, and you've got divers that are carrying heavy equipment down there, so I would look to council for guidance on that.
So this would be an added budget item,
Correct.
new budget item. What are we talking about?
I believe we can still do it for the original ask of 15.
Okay, what do we say? I must say, I've heard some fairly cogent arguments for having stairs there. If not the current ones, which some people say they're fine, but maybe they're not fine. I'll take your word for that over anybody's.
The wooden stairs are fine. They could do with a few repairs, a few planks. The problem is the landing at the bottom
Drop
and the 5-foot drop.
But we can solve that for 15,000.
Yeah, well, that would be a replacement of the entire stairs.
But regrading a slope for it with our new Bobcat, with our new
Excavator.
excavator.
So,
Yeah. What do you say?
be using a stinger to go down to the bottom, wouldn't you?
I don't know how we'll do it. Would mostly be a contract, external contract.
So-
Well, it'd be a DFO thing as well.
Yes.
So then the stairs right now fall short.
There's a 5-foot drop at the base of the stairs.
Okay, so in order to do it properly, you need continuity. You can't have any discrepancy in the stairs at all. So if you're gonna build stairs, you're gonna replace them,
Right down to the
right
bottom.
down to the bottom. That's the
Correct.
logical thing to do.
Until the sea puts the sand back, of course.
What's the
You know,
DFO
next
time?
high tide.
Or takes
Or takes more.
Or it takes more.
What's the DFO time?
DFO time is probably about 45 days.
Okay.
So you could do it
and
for the summer? you're
We
thinking?
would have to do it within the fisheries window, so.
When is
August
the
to
fisheries
September.
window?
August, September, so, okay.
Yeah, so there's plenty of time.
Yeah.
And potentially look for a new location, or?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would look
Yeah.
for another access to that same spot.
Okay, so do you need a motion, or can we just do this by discussion and then adopt the whole supplemental budget?
Yeah, that would be an amendment if you want to add it into here, and then once we're finished discussing, you could recommend we accept these supplementals.
Okay, so how do we do the amend? Do we just do the amendment on the nod?
I can just,
You can.
I would just add it on, wouldn't I, in the-
Just
as
make
an
the
amendment?
amendment, and then what you're approving at the end of the day is the supplementals as amended.
As amended under discussion. So with that one amendment, are we good? Because this is it. 5% tax increase to pay for it. Ron, you look hesitant. I've never seen you hesitant, so it's worrisome.
So we're actually drawing on
I thought
reserves now.
I think you're going the wrong way, we're drawing on
They're
reserves.
drawing on reserves, yeah.
We're drawing on a surplus.
They're drawing on,
Before
well,
it used to be reserved.
technically it's reserves when we do it, yes, I'm fine with it.
I think we do need to do the stairs. I've spoken to enough people and had a look myself that, yeah, it gets a bit sort of, you know, the end of the world's coming without some stairs there. Okay, so I'll take a motion for the supplemental budget.
Because we're going to discuss them in closed, so then we were going to come out of the closed and then approve them.
Oh, I see. So there's
Yes.
some items
Yes.
imposed for the supplemental budget.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we
So you want
We
to
table
table
it?
table this
So
until
motion-
after we come out of close,
so motion to table
until after we come out
and
of
second.
close.
All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So that's that.
Peter, do you want to do Guillermo,
Not till we get there.
Are you Guillermo?
Well, it's funny, we
We
skipped that.
we have you coming up.
In
Just
the fourth quarter review.
stay awake.
You mean this, because this is in this is part of the fourth
Yeah,
quarter
I
review,
just state,
so.
yeah,
Did you want to go
Other
back
than
and talk about it?
Anything
or-
else what you notice, is it
Okay,
good?
What?
Capitalist.
you're happy with the capital?
Yeah,
and the-
yeah, I was fine.
Think then.
I mean, it's just a summary. That,
Yeah, no, and remember I said I like it very much. So I
Yes.
did. I looked at
Yes,
it
yes,
quite
I'm
carefully.
still staying with nice form.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Page 41.
Yes.
Pam, you have a recommendation?
It's basically it's for information purposes. We have a bylaw which states that based on the CPI increase, once those CPI results come out in March, we will do a salary increase for mayor and council retroactive to January 1st. So this is really just an information report. The actual CPI increase was 1.83%. So the mayor's salary would go up $253 for the entire year, and councillors would go up $126 for the year. And we would pay this on the next pay, which would be the March 31st pay.
Okay, so there's not much. This is bylaw. This is information purposes only.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Motion to receive in a second. Any discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Pam. I see I'm next. So,
No, there's an addition to the.
oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Website delivery timeline.
Website update. So, there's still some design and functionality issues that we're trying to get addressed as we continue cooperating and fleshing out the site. We hope to be able to be in a position to potentially provide council with a demonstration on the next budget meeting, or sorry, not the next budget meeting, the next council meeting, and hoping to go live mid-April, very end of April at the latest, kind of thing. So
Have you seen it? Are you
yeah,
blown away?
We're working with it. We're working on it, but there's some things that we're making a list of things that we're going back to the developers on that we want to see some changes on, and some of those things would include matters that I know you pointed out at the early on. So those things will be addressed, and then we'll come back and we'll provide council as a whole with a viewing of it, and we can get your feedback and before we finalize things and wrap things up.
Yeah, sounds good to me. So can we have a motion to receive that verbal report in a second? Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, thanks, Peter. And then we'll move on to this. So now, this was, as you probably know, the mayor has a responsibility to make recommendations and provisions for the good governance and something future of the village. But I thought it might be useful and worthwhile to get council's endorsement of this letter to the ministers, Minister Anton, who's the Minister of Justice, and Minister Stone, the Minister of Transport, and present them with this average speed over distance proposition. So I guess I'll make the recommendation and ask for a motion in a second that council endorse this after discussion. Is that a second? Thanks. So discussion?
I think it's a great idea, quite frankly. I was a little overwhelmed by the detail, but then I remembered, oh yeah, probably.
You should see how much detail I took out.
Yeah.
So I'm hurt and surprised you would say that.
I had the reverse viewpoint, Fred. I thought that Susan Anton's letter, which was nice, and I wouldn't say it was a form letter, but it was a little on the lightweight side that we've done this and good for us kind of thing. And you actually went the thank you.
I quoted it. Yeah.
Not good enough, and here's our best pitch, given that you've said this solution, and this solution were not acceptable. So you pulled one out of the hat here, which seems to work. And at the end of the day, the stats on high speed equal death.
And Lions Bay's got...
Go figure.
And there's the deaths. We have them.
So I
yeah.
think this basically sets you up, putting it to the upper ups of senior government, who won't be talking to you until June, I'm sure.
Well, they're not in lockup yet, but it's coming. So, when the writ drops,
So
they're not allowed to...
I'm going to guess that, in my personal view, that we'll be dealing with the same people.
I think that's right. Although you will notice in the CCs on the letter, I propose to send it to the opposition representatives for justice and for transport.
So that all said, it's probably, then there are many things that when you get to see senior government and your UBCMs and all the rest of that, this would be your next big topic with them.
It would. And this time, I'm not going to slap them with a sight unseen. This is going to be more, oh yeah, we talked about that.
Well, I think this is horrible to talk about statistics, but I just had a whole bunch of fentanyl statistics this morning. I think between now we've got the historical and what is the case, when they do the stuff, maybe we'll have some months, which will be the early summer months when it tends to, things happen.
You're talking about the barrier?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you'll have your solid evidence in place then.
Well, I will say one thing. I expect the accident rate to go up.
Well, it'll be
Serious accidents, no.
one-sided accidents.
Yeah, because I think a lot of cases now, traffic goes across the median and comes back, and we're none the wiser. And now we'll know because they'll hit the median. But it won't be crossover accidents, it won't be head-ons. But be that all as it may, there's all kinds of good reasons which I lay out in the presentation. So would it be fair to say in my letter that this proposition is endorsed by Lions Bay Council?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks. So I'll take, do I have to, can I vote on that? No, I'm part of council.
Sure.
Yeah, I can. Okay, so all in favour of endorsement and opposed? Oh, that's unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. So I will send that tomorrow because time is critical, with the election coming and so on and so forth.
House on forum material.
Yeah.
Maybe you should,
why not?
make a note to
Thanks,
yourself.
thanks, a very good point. I'm also in the process, just FYI, as part of the mayor's report, putting together a sort of a 20-minute presentation that we get for hosting the House on Community Forum. And this would be an excellent piece in it. Nye supplied me some great visual material. But that's only in May, but that's a good idea.
So should we put this on your action items?
Yeah, obviously.
I think we should have a resolution to that effect.
We have a motion, can I have are you being facetious?
No, I'm
It's
not being
done.
facetious.
Okay.
He made a
It's
motion.
Fred, the second.
That's
I have to
seconded.
I have to ask for a second. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favour? Opposed?
So noted.
You were shot down.
Okay, so what are we talking about? ASOP presentation to House on Community Forum. Okay. Council, volunteer week. Ron, that's your department.
Well, let's start with the big zero on that one. I think Sean has identified it, that's on the sheet of paper in front of you. I'm running 3 things right now, you're running a ton of things. I think from my learned colleagues across the table, we need a volunteer week champion.
Okay, it's one of you two.
What?
Volunteer week. Do you want to volunteer for volunteer week?
I think I'm already volunteered.
For
Volunteer
upside
week.
down and across the table, reading's not so good.
Used to be a salesman, you should be able to read upside down. So, Fred, are you saying you're already sort of somewhat teed up on the volunteer week celebrations?
No, I haven't been following it, quite frankly.
Okay.
I don't even know which
What's
week
the
it is.
Zora now?
There are none?
No.
Oh, okay. That's what you're talking about.
April 23rd to 29th.
Thank you.
Didn't intend.
So, well, okay.
I don't want to
so-
put people on the spot. Why don't you talk about it and nominate somebody, or hand it to a resident?
Well, a resident, well, let's speculate here. Resident, what am I doing in March, April, we're getting on here. I'll tell you what, I would try and do a resident, but following that, we could go as a fallback and have one of my colleagues be the champion. So I will endeavor to get a resident to do it in the next week, and if not, then by default it will go to.
Yeah, I mean the scope I don't think is huge. Is there a budget for this? Internal budget or otherwise?
There's an internal one, it comes from council, the council budget, and we did up it a little bit. So,
What is it?
I would say you have about $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have a banner,
Mhm.
so we don't have to pay for it.
Historically, it used to go. We used to put it up in the Lions Bay underpass, is my understanding, during the whole week.
Yeah.
And then the talk was having some sort of open house in the village hall for volunteers, which I think,
There you go.
again, I believe we've done in the past.
So, I will try and find somebody over the next, let's say, 10 days.
Yeah.
But following that,
Yeah. Well,
head or tail is the winner. Pick one.
I'll take it.
Head it would be.
There you go.
okay, well, I don't
Thank
think
you.
it's going to be too onerous.
That's
But,
all right.
I mean,
Mine?
my concern with Volunteer Week has always been that we stuck that banner up and that was it.
And
And
that
that's
was it,
very,
yeah.
very lame. So,
I think in the past we've had an open house, like the volunteer firefighters
Not in
came
the last 2 years.
uniform. No, not in the
No.
last 2 years, but historically, that's what we've done.
okay.
So just be trying to figure out the best time to have it. Is it in the afternoon or is it in the evening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
those
so it's a
people can
matter
come
of
and-
figuring out when
How
the
to
hall's
invite people.
available, best time, I mean, and the fact that we do something. That's the key driver.
Unveil the volunteer uplighting. Coloured.
It might be a good time to do the quilt, I'm trying
Okay, so this is your department.
to, no,
so,
it's not, I'm giving you some
Fruit-
fresh ideas
Yeah.
here.
no,
Not
these,
that
are all
it's your
good.
problem, your hands are full.
These are all good ideas.
Okay.
Okay,
so-
good. So that's well taken care of.
So
Thank
I will
you.
correspond to my colleagues on that.
Canoe journey.
Talk to Safeway for sponsorship. It's in the hopper. Peter, if I could get.
Did you check with them that they would be okay with commercial sponsor?
Peter's already been copied with all the emails, so I didn't check with them, but
I don't think they would mind.
I can't imagine why they would not be. But I need to do that work, thank you. So Peter, I was hoping I could get half an hour of logistical time doing some work for me, putting my little scroll on a letterhead and stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you, I'll have that done tomorrow. So I think, my sense is that I will find us a sponsor for that, which means that we can parlay the dough into something else more meaningful. I've talked to you already, just to rehash last meeting, that the events committee, which would be where this would normally come with personnel, they're tapped out and they won't be here, so I think this would be an opportunity during volunteer week to sign up people for this.
Yes, it would.
Well, I mean, it goes hand in glove, because I think that's where our next bunch of manpower comes from.
And it needs to be explained what it is and why it's such
Yeah.
a big deal. I mean, I
So-
could even see some sort of little permanent plaque on a rock where they first set foot ashore or something.
There we go, that was your bolt in the sky, good.
I'm sure DFO wouldn't allow it though.
So I think in that we are going to be doing some public stuff in the very near future, and volunteer work, volunteer week, I think this is all gonna come together.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
We'll, if we can ask you to stand down on announcing too much to the public via the mayor's address until we get a little more fleshed out.
I'm not going to do anything until
Well,
you tell me what to
I
say.
think it's a good, it's certainly a good volunteer week, spring thing and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Okay, good. Now moving on to committee reports and
Okay. Sorry, finish it.
I was
did-
finished.
Okay, sorry.
Slightly truncated, but
I did speak on the phone with Guillermo Schwartz, who's sitting in the back there.
welcome.
He had tried to get here in time for public participation part, but he had to drop his wife off somewhere. So I told him to come anyways, and when the matter comes up, it will be up to council to consider if they want to invite him to speak on the matter.
Okay, I'll take a motion in that regard. Thanks. In a
I
second.
would strongly endorse yes.
Fine, thank you. Second, any discussion? All in favour, opposed, that carried. So you're welcome to speak, Guillermo, when the time comes. So, Ron, lead us through this.
I'm going to guess this is about a tree matter.
Yes.
Why don't you speak now?
You want to just come up to the podium there?
Okay, so some of the trees that they want to cut are right on my driveway, which is not my driveway, it belongs to the village, but it goes up to my house. And there were quite a few that they wanted to cut. They have reduced that to 4. That's nice.
So there were,
Here.
so if council would go to the top of page 72,
That's the valuable.
yes, I would say this excellent stonework on village property is done by Richard Schwartz.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay? use
Right.
that as your reference, you can answer to that.
Thanks. So it's very steep and the earth is not very good. So if you cut those trees, probably you cannot plant new ones because they're not going to take, or it's going to be difficult. The second thing is on the opposite side of that driveway we had also trees and there were some problems with the height. And we have been managing them now for 8 years. I know there is a policy against topping them off, but I guess that policy is when people are going to sell the house, but that's not the case at the moment. So maybe the cutting of the trees can be postponed and we can manage them.
These ones here on the rock wall side of the driveway.
Yeah. And then we will make sure that they are below, not obstructing the view from any neighbor, like we do with the other ones. And
So can I just ask you about that though?
Yeah.
The photo on page 72, the bottom one, you make the point that, as you can see in the photo, the trees that have been marked down to be cut do not affect even now.
I don't think so. But the tree committee was there. They were discussing it. I didn't know that they were going to come, so I couldn't argue against it. My view from my house, and as you can see in the picture, I don't think they have a problem. But this comes from two different neighbors. So I don't know, maybe they have a problem and I cannot see it. So I was not in their house looking down.
Yeah, okay,
So I'm not the person. So we're willing to manage them so that they don't have this problem anymore. I prefer that than cutting them because it's difficult to replace them. But
for the reasons given.
yeah, and you will start looking. I mean, it's this year will be those 4, next year will be another 3, and slowly.
How many trees are on public land though? Because many of these will be your trees.
No, all that is public land.
So I see the ones with the 4 with 5, 6 with tape on them.
Yeah, now that those have been reduced to 4, but all that is public land. It's kind of like a turn
I know,
that belongs to
yeah.
like four. Well, it's in front of 4 houses,
I know. Yeah.
and all that. It has probably like 20, 25 trees. But my guess is that they're all almost, as you can see in the picture that I took, they're almost all at the same height. So they're cutting those 4 this year. So I'm guessing that next year or in 2 years, at the rate they grow, you'll cut another 4, and then suddenly you'll have no trees on that surface. So that's why. So it's not that I want to go against the policy of the tree committee of not topping off, but maybe in this case, since we have proven already that we're doing that with the other side, maybe an exception can be made. That's what.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
So with the trees that you manage on the other side of the driveway, how do you manage them? Do you top them, or do
Yeah.
you do something else?
No, we top them. We top them and we maintain them. We top them at the height where they were topped before, because those were already topped trees, so that they don't keep branching off.
Are these public trees on the other side of the driveway?
Yeah. It's not our land. It's public land. Yeah.
Okay, and so the recommendation of the tree committee is what?
So just before
I
you get
couldn't.
to
There was a huge amount of detail that I didn't need to see. I just wanted to get to the recommendation.
Well, I think I would suggest that council pause, and if Mr. Schwartz have a seat for a second, we'll call you back. That if you want to reflect and go through the thing one more time before I go through the recommendation and why. Peter, do you have anything more to add? I'm ready to go.
I was going to say, thought that there was, but maybe that was on a different application, additional reasons why tree topping is poor management. But there is on page 69 the input from Garth in Public Works. The tree topping is poor management. False leader tops grow, which are weak and prone to break off in strong winds. And then he had suggested removing a few and then planting to get a cycle going that would be positive as opposed to topping. Some of the other issues with topping, you've mentioned the false leaders, but you have those things, they grow to a certain width or girth, and then they're prone to break off in high winds, and their risk management liability issue, which is why staff is very concerned about the practice of tree topping, and that it's something that I'd like to come back to council with a draft policy on the matter, but it's something that I think council needs to really consider really carefully whether any topping should be allowed. There's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't be done, from both botanical, what's the proper word there? Botanical, scientific reasons, and for council's sake, risk management liability issues.
Okay, so I don't think there's much argument against the sort of the botanical ill-advisability of topping. The application says that they want to remove those trees, standard trees, directly in front of the above addresses between Mutual Driveway and Timbertop Drive. Reasons: blocking sunlight, affecting house value, interfering with view.
Actually, Carl, on the bottom of page 65 says that there was to be no trees to be removed.
Yeah, that's
what they essentially wanted to do was top across the
so
site
the
line.
application was to top as well.
Yeah, so the applicants were to top, hard and dried on that one, and I would say that Chair Watterson did a considerable job in meeting numerous times informally with the tree committee to review the site, and also considerable dialogue with the multiple applicants here. They did go originally for topping, or I think their person referred to it as rendering, a new term. The substantial part is they were basically going to use the trees as a giant hedge, not trim them, and so as Peter pointed out, Works Department is not in favor of that. The other opportunity was to wholesale wipe out the bank, which would be very undesirable.
Aesthetically.
And probably from slope management too.
Okay.
And also, even if in the best case, it would be the hottest bramble pile of blackberries you've ever seen in your life in another year or two. So the essence of this is that, synthesizing before I do the recommendation, is that there are a variety of trees. Some of them are within the applicant's ability to cut down because they're very small trees, so they could take those if they wanted to. But the ones that have been marked are larger and come under our sphere. So the recommendation here is that those are cut and cleaned. So there is no topping involved here. It should site improve. The applicants have agreed with this. So that's the guts of the recommendation, which I'll make in a second, but if there's any other questions, I'll answer them or defer.
So, Mr. Schwartz, did the applicants, if I can read through this voluminous correspondence, they never asked you, they never canvassed your opinion?
No. What happened was that I saw the initial plastic rings around the trees, so I called, and they told me that there was a request to cut the trees, so I sent the pictures. And
that was the first you heard of it?
Yeah.
So what is this canvassing all the neighbours requirement?
It's also posted.
Yeah, but if you don't, if somebody's trying to cut a tree next to my house, I'm not going to go down to the village and check if somebody's trying to cut trees.
So staff makes sure that anyone who is an affected property owner has been notified, and by doing that, and our means of determining that is whether, if we've received a response from somebody, we know that they know about it. It's whether they got the form from the neighbor or whether they just saw the flagging on the trees. So we marked that down as that resident had been checked off the list. So
This resident got wind of it is by seeing the tape on the trees.
which I would imagine is probably quite often the case.
Okay.
I would think.
I was not complaining.
No, fine. I'm actually more wondering about the process. Okay, so
Which, to be fair, when Mr. Schwartz wrote, was December the 2nd, some time ago, so it's not like this is just happening lickety-split here. There's a variety of reasons why this has taken as long as it has, but here we are now.
Another question?
Yeah.
And perhaps Councillor McLaughlin can answer this one. With respect to the recommendation that the applicants replant low-growing native trees, was there any discussion about how many, or should that not be part of the resolution if council is to say, yes, you must replant?
Appreciate where the tree committee can blue sky some of this stuff, which I would put this in. I don't believe we've asked that in other applications. I think we should pass on that and just go with the cut and clean.
Well, my recommendation, just as a sort of one of the things that I wanted to bring up was that I think that, you know, it's very rare that we see any recommendations or council resolutions that material be replanted. And that, you know, if you're cutting down stuff, eventually that trunk and the root system and everything is going to rot and that bank will become unstable. So short of taking out the whole root system and the trunk and everything and replanting something that way, you know, even if you don't require that, perhaps it would be forward-looking and thinking ahead that sooner or later it's going to degenerate. So maybe it's important to consider more often replanting low-growing material. So my suggestion would be to err on that side as opposed to knocking it off the recommendation.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. You know, if we look at the pictures, we see what the stumps left behind look like, not so good. And there is an aesthetic consideration.
Something that Mr. Schwartz referred to was the steepness of the bank and the soil not being very good, and that therefore replanting wasn't going to be easy.
Replanting of trees.
Yeah, I don't know if you can expand on that, or.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the soil, and it's all soil probe, it has roots from all trees. It doesn't look easy to plant on. It's very, very steep. So I'm not an expert, so maybe you can.
It goes back a ways in there, I can see.
Yeah.
How interested? Oh yeah, no, go on.
Given the slope and the steepness of the slope, replanting will be difficult, and it will require significant oversight and watering to ensure that whatever it is planted takes.
Even if it was the recommendation of the committee, a low, or the putative recommended low native plants, not these are cedar trees, I take it. Yeah. Low growing native trees. Whatever those are.
Well, if I could weigh in on this thing, I take a different point of view, and I have to say I disagree with the works assessment on it. The issue, I know people don't like topping trees. They think it's ugly and all the aesthetics and all this sort of stuff, except for the people looking over them that don't have trees in their view. But I think when you've got mature trees there with a root system in place, you've got a stable bank. And when you disturb it, you don't have a stable bank. You chop the tree down. Peter's right, you're going to have to remove the stump if you want to ensure that something is going to grow there. And in removing those stumps, you're disturbing the soil even further, destabilizing the bank. The safest solution, I believe, is to top these trees, leave them in place as best as possible, but have a caveat with that as well, that whoever is wanting them topped would be required every 2 to 3 years to retop them to eliminate the dangerous regrowth. Because that's the issue, and I'm not just talking off the top of my head, because I can use 335 Bayview Road that butts onto 360 Bayview Place. There is a massive big hedge of cedars, hemlocks, and Douglas fir back there that have been topped for 30 years now, I guess. And they used to be a little bare on the bottom. With topping them for so many years, they filled in on the bottom. It is like a massive hedge now.
Yeah.
And they're well, 335 Bayview, of course, is our place. We've had no windfalls at all. Nothing's broken off on those things in 30 years. It's on a steep bank. The bank has not moved at all. It is stable because we left them in there. And the resident behind us, who pays for all this thing, thankfully, he gets a great view in the whole thing. Every 2 to 3 years he comes by with the tree service people. They trim off all the shoots that are coming up. Everything is cleaned up, put away. And just for giving our permission to allow him to do that, he's got a great view, and we've got security for our roof. We have nothing coming through. But to even the proponents' original thing, they only wanted tree topping, no trees to be removed with the exception of broadleaf maples and alders. Well, in our neighborhood, broadleaf maples and alder are weed trees. They are the ones that come flying off in the high winds and go through people's roofs. But if you leave a good stand of trees there, good and stable and everything, they have strength in numbers, and they will grow in and they will stabilize the bank. So, to Mr. Schwartz's point, I think he's right on track. He is advocating the safest thing for the bank. Top the trees, don't rip them up.
And I wouldn't mind paying for it, so, which I'm doing for the other ones anyway, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I tend to go with the general staff recommendation that topping is not a good overall tree management. But in this particular case, given that that was the original application, the person most directly affected is okay with topping but not with removal. It may indeed turn into a hedge. I tend to wonder if I know that corner, there's not a heck of a lot of sunlight just there because of folds in the land and trees behind. So I think I would be more amenable to agreeing to topping the 4 trees only than asking for extra trees to be planted to maintain the stability and stuff. That would also be a good compromise, with the stipulation that we'd be prepared to reconsider in 2 years' time, see how the topping went.
I think that, if I could add to that, I think that my experience with those, I've got trees very similar to that in front of my sun deck, and they've been topped for years and years and years, and they're still, I mean, every once in a while you lose one of them, but they're small trees, that you do lose one of them, but the reality is they've been there, they make a good hedge. But the concern I would have with the slope is that if you're going to remove the trees, you're going to have to top them first and leave the root system alone while you plant the other trees, allowing enough light to the other trees to grow and establish their root systems, because otherwise, if you clear cut and then try and plant trees, you're not going to have any, you're not going to have anything left to hold the dirt. And within 2 or 3 years, that bank will be sliding. So the reality is you're probably going to have to do a 2-step process anyways, which would be top the trees, thin them out a little bit, and then allow the new ones to grow. So my feeling is that why not do the topping and try and see if how it holds up and how it stands.
I guess that's where I was going, provision to revisit in 2 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you be okay with that, Public Works?
Absolutely.
So, any further discussion? There's no motion on the table yet, but...
So, just to recap, if I can. So the proposal under discussion is to bypass the tree committee's recommendation to cut and clean, bypass Public Works' recommendation to cut and clean, and go with the applicant, which is to selectively do the 4 odd trees and top those alone. And Mr. Schwartz has generously offered to pay for it.
Well, no, I think the applicants pay for it. He's talking about maintenance of the top trees.
I think that's our concern, is that topping trees and letting them go is going to cause problems. If there's a regular program of maintenance with which Mr. Schwartz has agreed to take on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Which is what I'm doing with the other trees. I'm topping them off every year or 2 years.
That doesn't need a tree application every time, does it?
Oh, this is opening a huge box.
So when I tell my neighbor he can remove the shoots from the trees, oh, those are private trees. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the size of them. There's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I think I've recapped this. If there's any more questions, this would be the time to have the dialogue, and we'll go to motion.
The only question on what you stated was whether or not any replanting is required.
Well, I guess not if
Well,
you're
if it's
topping.
being topped, they're not touching the root system, so
No, I
I
was just
guess.
kind of went to Councillor Hughes's suggestion that if you do that, then
You have
plant
future
some
trees.
low ones in the meantime. I don't know. It was just a question.
Yeah, I think that might be an unnecessary wrinkle.
Mm.
Let's take the motion as approve the original application as written.
Well, I think we have to be careful with that because the original application may not be the four
I
trees.
would, if I could modify that, Mayor, if I could go with, that all trees that have been marked with orange tape and photo has been taken, be topped and associated debris be removed,
That's 6 trees.
whatever the number is.
Yeah.
I
It
thought it
looks,
was
looks like more than
only-
6, but yeah, that's right.
Oh, is it more than 6?
Yeah, it looks
It's
like more
been-
than 6, yeah.
It's been counted and the photos taken.
I thought you said that it had been reduced to 4.
4.
I thought it was 4.
The original application says 4.
That's where I got it.
Well, if you go
The
count
pictures
the
is
flags.
at least 6.
Without a timestamp on this, I would give it 2.
The pictures are mine, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
And it used to be like 10, but you could not see the other ones because they are more inside, so they don't show up in the pictures too much. Now that has been reduced to 4.
Oh, now it's 4.
Yeah,
I see 7 trees in there.
it's 4
yeah.
that we're going to be
Yeah.
completely cut, and now whatever recommendation is issued.
So, but would the 4 be topped, or the 6, or the 10?
I suppose that the people who have asked for them to be topped would need to have topped the ones that obstruct the view,
Actually,
whatever that is.
pardon me, the number of trees is quite irrelevant. It's part of the thing, it was all cut and cleaned. So whether they're all cut and cleaned or all topped, it's neither here nor there in my
Okay.
opinion. So we'll go with the all, as the chair has written it, if I could modify it, that all trees that have been marked with orange tape and there have been photos taken, be topped and associated debris be removed.
With the resident, do we want to say something? The current
We're
resident
getting
at
into-
335?
We're getting into
Because we can't op-
enforceability here.
Yeah, we're getting
So
into
do
enforceability.
the
We'll leave that.
sentence stop.
Okay, so we'll take that as a motion.
Well, how about the replant part? Do you wanna leave that in as well?
Well, nothing's been removed.
Well, it's a recommended, I haven't moved it, it's they've recommended it, but where's your enforcement? And I said,
Right.
what's the amount of dollars we're gonna ask them to spend and who's gonna water it and yada, yada, yada.
Mm.
Oh, so you're leaving out the replant
Yeah,
section
no,
there?
it's just what Ron said as the motion. So I'll ask for a second on that motion. Thanks, got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Fine.
You fine?
Yep.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Okay, good. It's probably a good compromise as well. Thanks for coming, Mr. Schwartz. You're welcome to stay, although,
Just want to just let me know how you're going to do the schedule, when you want me to do the topping, etc. It's not for this meeting, I guess, but just so
no, we're policy.
I'm open to whatever is needed.
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
And thank you, Brian.
D2, Council Strategy Committee recommendations. Oh, you've got an ad, Fred, before you get there. So we have this here. These were the recommendations made by the Strategy Committee from this afternoon. I'll ask for a motion.
We're missing number 7. You don't have number 7. Number 7 is the add-on?
That is that one right there. There's only 6 because the first one was removed, it was just to be received.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Right, okay.
Became 6.
Sorry.
Okay, so motion. Thanks, and second. Discussion. I would just like to add that I know that we discussed what was 4, which is now 3, I guess. Yes. This doesn't add any taxpayers. Is that correct, Peter?
Correct.
The only increase to the tax base arises from some,
Subdivision. if people subdivide. If they have a property that's,
Yeah, no, but this is not that. This is
Other
talking
than-
about allowing cottages. So if somebody puts a cottage on their lot,
yeah,
Their assessment. of
their
private
assessment will go up by the value of the improvement, but the land value will not change by much.
lot At all.
So, or at all.
well,
In theory.
the land value may increase as soon as the day you pass the zoning bylaw, because the land is now capable of holding more density.
That's right.
So that economic reality will happen then, and then the assessment value may go up if the person exercises their right to build a cottage, and it'll go up by the amount of the improvement. But no, it will not add a new taxpayer. So, as the committee discussed this afternoon, what it would do is provide additional affordable housing stock, and if at some point in the future you determine that, okay, we're willing to entertain removing the covenant that prohibits people from stratifying these things, if you get to that point, then that would be the next step. But
That is still within the council of the day's.
that would be a future. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go from A to Z. You might want to stop. Take it a bit more of a gradual approach, and then that is still a potential step that could be taken at some point in the future if it was determined that was in the best interest of the community and the community wanted it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, this taxpayer will end up paying slightly more taxes, therefore he'll assume more of the overall burden, but not as much as if there was a new taxpayer.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I can live with that. Especially as we have we, meaning the corporate we, has the ability to do something about it in the future, if we
And-
want to allow people to sell.
And this is more or less direction to staff to come back with a bylaw for first reading, which incorporates these elements, which we will then take to a public information session.
And point out the implications of each of these.
And so the community will have an opportunity
Yeah.
to see what's being proposed and to opine on it, and council can then take that into consideration and decide what they want to do with that for subsequent readings.
This is not cast in stone. This is not the final one.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So thanks. That was a very fruitful discussion, long though it was. We are narrowing in on a very usable zoning bylaw now, I think. So emergency services report.
I got, we're still on committees, if I can just preempt emergency services.
Yep.
We've got something to report out from the infrastructure committee meeting of February 27th. The key points we had for water supply, and we briefly touched on this earlier. The IC recommends to council that we pursue Metro to conduct an internal feasibility study into piping water to Village of Lions Bay. Our last request was turned down because we suspected it was because we asked them to fund it. We, the IC, believe Metro could do a desk study and adequately determine the feasibility. So I put that forward as a recommendation from the IC. Should council agree? Should I make a motion?
Making a motion, thanks, and a second. I'll second that.
Okay,
Any discussion?
Can I get the wording on that?
I'll hand you this afterwards.
No discussion? Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries.
Ah, that's more. It's only a couple of pages.
Okay, good. So thanks, Fred. That's good.
Okay, the second one, recommendation to council is in regard to cell towers. IC recommends to council that staff produce an RFP to install a cell tower on the Village of Lions Bay property. Purposes being provide improved cell coverage for the village in whole, enhance or make possible SCADA communications for our water system. As a brief background, we have received a request from company or companies interested in installing a cell tower. We are presently searching for improving our communication systems and methodology of our water system. We are looking into cell, radio, hardwired communications to determine the best for the needs of the village. So I would make that a motion as well, if I could.
Do we want to ask for the ability to approve the location? Would you do that anyway, or do we have to stipulate that? Because the way that motion says is staff must put up a cell tower wherever they can. We would want to check where that goes, right?
Oh, that was one of the things I left that out of here. We did say it in the IC that it would be on village property.
Yeah, but the beach?
There's a lot of it.
So this is asking for an RFP. So we could put out an RFP that would include a desktop to look at proposed locations or the most suitable locations. If council at that time chooses not to proceed with the RFP,
But we don't get to approve RFPs. They just go.
well, we would go out to the RFP to vendors for a plan for improving cell tower
And then
coverage.
there'd be a contract which council would approve.
For the works at the RFP, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, because we did also talk around the table at the IC, where would this thing actually go? And we weren't actually sure.
So once the RFP does come back, the recommendations don't have to be followed through on. It would be there for information.
This is just authorizing staff to issue the RFP.
Correct.
In light of one expression of interest we've already had, and so now we need to go out for competitive bids. And there's a revenue component. Do you know what it is?
No, I do not know what the dollar value is, but it's significant enough that tower companies will pay for the full construction of the tower.
No, I meant revenue to the hosting municipality.
That would be part of the RFP, to flesh that out and
Yeah.
identify the options, the benefit to the municipality. And then if council chooses to pull the trigger, at that point, they can, or they can shelve it. But you would have the information required to make an informed decision.
Yeah. And of course, the drivers, the real drivers, are improved cell communications for residents and SCADA backbone. Okay, so we'll take that as the motion. Thanks, Fred. I need a second on that. I'll second. Jim second. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Thanks.
I also have one for the ESS meeting attended on February 28th, if I may.
Please.
After a discussion, the ESS team has asked if the former library space in Broughton Hall could be utilized for a reception center expansion during a group lodging event. It could be used for childcare or a quiet time as needed. So they wanted to bring that to council and ask if that was a possibility.
I would move that we ask for staff input on that one. There's several suggested uses for the recently freed up space. We need to understand what the highest and best use of that space is. We've seen 3 proposals already. An art gallery space, record storage space, this, and there may be more that I'm not thinking of. So, can we ask for a staff report?
Say, looking at, can you define the parameters a bit more?
Yeah. Highest and best use of the vacated library space. Now, how would you know what that is? Because
Well, I think.
Well, I could quantify the staff request pretty easily. The Arts Gallery has withdrawn at this time. So it's 2. Plus,
well,
that we know of.
if we asked for asks, lots of people are going to come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, I've got no use for that thing. Let's put a brewery in there."
Not a bad idea.
Well, it's not a bad idea now that I think about it.
Well, I think the ESS ask isn't for continuous use of it, it is just that whatever consideration
Yeah.
has been given, that they would have access to be in there without
The
disruption.
problem is if it's full of records,
Yeah.
then it's too late.
How big a space would they need? Because there's the former library with the shelves on it. And then there's the little ante room, and then there's the
Yeah.
room around the
Yeah.
kitchen-y thing. So there's,
So that needs to be defined there and then.
Yes.
so you'd certainly the 2 small spaces which are joined from a door in. Unless there's 20 of you.
No, I think it would be for just a small number of children should the need arise. And I don't think they need a great
10?
amount of space. I wouldn't think there'd be that as many as that.
Okay.
I think when the time comes,
Well, we're gonna do it anyhow.
yeah, exactly. Go where you need, of course. I think really what the question is do you want that space for records storage? And so you need to decide that. I guess that's what the request is. Please tell us if the municipality would like to repurpose that space for record storage.
Well, I would hate to see us look at any one part of that whole space up there in isolation from each other. I mean, the whole area should be looked at in terms of what are all the various potential uses, and what are the options, and then come back with a report and some recommendations or direction, seek direction from council on what to pursue. Whether it's putting out a request for expressions of interest to the community, whether it's sectioning, saying, no, go ahead and section off a certain section for archive records keeping, and the rest will be used for other purposes, and what those purposes may be. I think the report needs to address all of those things, and there may be that the report says we need to follow the following process, and whatever that process may be. But we might be able to kill some of the birds with that stone.
Do you have a sense of what this report would look like and how you would tackle it? No. Well, that's my concern. I don't even know where you would start, because there's an infinite number of potential uses.
Well, I think that's where potentially we'd want to go out to the community and say, request. We've really only, taken a section of the community, namely the Arts Council. It seemed like they were going to come back with a proposal, and we sort of just, okay, well, let's see what that looks like. But now that that's off the drawing board, then maybe we need to put it out there to everybody and say, anybody got any ideas or proposals that we can look at, or and then take everything into consideration, figure out what you want to do.
Because then we would have had the gamut of public opinion, current public opinion anyway, and then we can make a decision. Yeah, I think that's right. So I think maybe we go out to the village and ask what they want to see there.
Staff led.
Well, the problem is getting the stuff out there.
Well, staff and
Staff led though, yeah.
Staff led.
Yeah. At some point, I'll put a line in the mayor's note when you tell me.
Yeah.
Deadline coming. Please respond.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no real imperative here. Although there's a benefit to getting rid of that record storage trailer.
Well, then that chief gets his thing too. So.
I think we'd sort of envisioned it. We have talked about it flowing nicely in the 2018 budget. Just because anything we do, there might be a cost to it, and
that's where you can put the poster printer.
well, you know what? I'd already thought of that, Your Worship.
You know what else we thought of?
Christmas lights.
Actually, we did think of something.
Council chambers.
Council chambers.
What for?
Festival lights.
Oh, up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Right under the big screen.
Come on, TikTok, you're on a roll here.
Bring this up, meeting room, office expansion.
I think that'd be a bit rich for Lions-Bay's blood to have a dedicated council chamber, only for council, every 2 weeks. But
I think you should work in your screen. Go with that one.
they don't want the screen.
I've been looking at some at Costco, so.
Okay, we'll move on. So the action there is that's an action item, but we need a resolution on it now.
Staff.
So can I have a resolution, a motion for an action item that staff will do what again?
Report back to council on potential
cost.
uses of the upstairs spaces.
And a public poll
and
thereopon.
In a process to consult or obtain the public feedback.
Fine. Take that as a motion. Second. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. That's an action item.
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution for an action item. Did you say action item in front of that?
I got one more if I may. Sorry, check that.
Fred's on a roll.
Still
Did you
looking
have coffee this afternoon?
No, I had a burrito for dinner. No,
What's dinner?
Anyhow, unrelated. The ESS team also made the suggestion during the last meeting of holding the community safety forum in Emergency Preparedness Week in an outside venue, and so my segue into emergency services is had a conversation with Ruth Simons and the ESS team, and Ruth has set the date for the community safety forum on May 18th for this year in Broughton Hall. And I understand she's reserved the Broughton Hall already for it. So this is just sort of information for...
It went round and round and round until they could find a date that worked, yeah.
Yeah. The idea of meeting outside just didn't seem to get wings or anything, so go back into the hall, and I think it's.
What would be the driver to meet outside?
Well, they really wanted to have it during the EP week, but seeing as Broughton Hall was busy those times, they set up little booths and catch people coming in and out. But I think the number of people coming by wouldn't be anywhere near what they would have actually coming to a dedicated meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that's all I got.
Okay, so no action on that one?
Oh.
Thanks. So that's it for reports, I believe, and we'll move on to resolutions. This one is mine, so just to speak to it, there's a count going. Oh, well, it's actually too late for this. Well, maybe not. So Metro has contracted the BC Non-Profit Housing Association to do a homeless count tonight, in fact. And I thought that, well, did we want to include any of Lions Bay's homeless? If we have any, they're going to be down Brunswick Beach way. We'd have to have a sort of a blended number, because I suspect we have more homeless in the summer than we have in the winter. And are they really homeless, or are they just camping for a long term? So I just thought I'd bring this up, given that this homeless count was going on. As you know, homeless is a big deal in the big city. Not so much for us, but you know, we're members of Metro. So there's the resolution. I guess I'll move it and ask for a second. I don't see a second.
Who's doing the count from?
It would be staff, and it would be almost guessed. Nye would get in the truck now, because this is the night of the 7th, go down that little side road just to the north of Brunswick, and go say, "Anybody there?" Shine a light. I mean, how did we think we'd do it?
I don't know. You brought it forward, so how did you think we would do it?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if we care.
Well, the only one I know is called Hobo Joe, and he
Yeah,
lives up in the
that's what I was
woods.
just
He's
thinking,
quite
yeah.
at home there, so I don't know if he's homeless.
I don't think he's homeless, he's got his own, he lives in a little,
Up in the
yeah,
woods?
Yeah,
Like,
somewhere up yonder.
yeah.
He's quite happy as he is, thanks.
He only
so
thinks he's happy,
That's one.
according to Metro.
Yeah, according to Metro, yeah, exactly.
We're probably halfway through the
I
homeless
believe
camp.
we can send Naya home without going to.
Okay, so that's a-
We'll go with the one.
Thanks, Hugh.
We'll go with
Thank
the
you.
one, and I would second.
Okay, so you sure you want to second it?
Yes,
Because the second is for somebody to do something about it.
I just did.
How?
Oh, yes, I'll do the drive. Peter, keep that number down.
Okay, it doesn't matter how it's done, and it doesn't have to be tonight. It just has to be a number, and then we try and call up the BC Housing Association and say, hey, we've got a number. And they say, Lions Bay, is that in Metro? So you know, I'm just being a corporate citizen here.
Did you have?
So we have a second motion. I'll call the question. All in favour? And opposed? That carries. Okay, so
So you know where the number goes. You'll
staff's going to do it.
got it done. Thank you.
Staff has determined the count by speaking to local knowledgeable people, and now you need to communicate it. And you also need to tell us if there's a course of action. I suspect there won't be.
The Salvation Army got tapped for this morning too.
Well, I mean, in the big city, you need people going around in
sure.
pairs and triplets, actually, you know,
Sure.
rousting outdoor
Tag
shelters and saying, "Are you happy?" And yeah, it's a big deal. Bylaws, there being none, we'll move to correspondence. Whew, page 89. Ron, you want to do this? You seem to think you go faster than me.
Take it, yes, okay. Doing the government first, G1, human trafficking, solid topic. The writer substantially asked that we write to very senior government asking that they devote additional resources for enforcement and education to pursue
The same letter sent every 3 months.
So, no response from this.
Yep.
Communities in Bloom, Canada, this is a lovely concept, however, it's a competition across Canada. I'm thinking maybe when we have Moody's work finished and they can review the flowers by the concrete. No response, so I digress, so no. UBCM membership, I'd go no response because unless I missed the tag, staff has already paid this
No, it's ready to pay. It's just a formality, but because it does get addressed to mayor and council, I guess historically we've just got council's approval to
I think
pay
it
it.
gets a stamp on it.
Isn't it in the
When
budget?
it comes in. Yeah,
Oh,
yes,
it
we
gets-
pay it every year. It's just our,
Do you just want it approved
for some
separately?
reason they always send it to mayor and
Okay.
council and just,
No response.
Well, no, I think we
Yeah.
need a resolution.
or just
Well, you guys would
approval,
just
or-
pay it anyhow.
No,
wouldn't you?
approval it can only be by resolution. Or do we just say it's part of the budget?
Isn't that just part of the budget?
Okay.
Right, let's leave it
You
at
can
that.
say approved as part of the budget.
Question. Why is it we get charged 5% GST on a membership due to the Union of BC municipalities when we just go and get our GST rebate at the end of the year? It just seems like, a waste of time, staff time.
Well,
It's
the
like
whole
you're
GST is structured that way, that,
A waste
no,
of
it's
staff
actually,
time.
Yeah,
trust
waste of
me,
staff
having
time.
used the federal sales tax, this is brilliant compared to what we used to do. It's very smooth, it just happens automatically that, we get it back, but the end user doesn't. So it's just kind of an ebb and flow, so.
You have to be scarred to understand the smoothness.
Thank you.
Okay, no.
Yeah, like smooth move.
Yeah. All right, so Peter, resolution to pay, thank you. Going,
It's part of the budget.
Done.
Approved as part of the
So
budget.
no response, perfect. Last one, R1, a resident one, and by the way, I take it that so few residents write in that things are by and large good. So in this particular case, the statement accurately and articulately presents the situation, and I think, Carl, if you want to write and say thank you.
I think I mentioned it to Ruth when I saw her, so I
Okay,
think it's
done.
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 Okay, thank you. So do we need a motion to receive correspondence?
Yep.
I'll take that as a second, and all in favor, opposed, that carries. Ron moved.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Public just left.
there's no new business. Public questions and comments? I'll take a motion to close the meeting under 91A, C, and E, and 92B.
Oh.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Thanks. A second? All in favor? Opposed, that carries. So meeting is now heading into close. Okay, we're resuming the meeting at 9:14. The first item of business, should we reconsider the tabled report, or should we do the reporting out?
I think the tabled report.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to, what is it, reconsider?
To pull off the table the supplemental budget request report.
Okay, thanks. So that's the first motion and a second. Thanks. All in favor, opposed, carried. I'll now ask for a motion to approve the supplemental budget, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, opposed, carried. So that's taken care of. And now reporting out. Items were discussed in closed session pertaining to personnel costs around the supplemental budget items, and approved a report from staff on the discussions with the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure on the new highway barrier that will be added in the reporting out section of the minutes of this meeting. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. And a second, all in favor, opposed, carried.
Thank you.